what shocks people when they start to look at themselves or start to take ownership of their life is how they were in the beginning. Like, I know for me in my journey, like I was satisfied with my lot, what I got, satisfied. So I had my own unit in a affluent suburb. I was making decent money per year. I had a really great expenditure income, like a disposable income. And I dressed what I wanted to dress in. I looked smart. I'd go on holidays when I want to go on holidays. And I loved buying expensive gifts. And I loved flexing this financial muscle, whether it was in buying new things or just flexing whatever I could flex, right? So in this, what I realized, and what I'll be doing here, is offering my reflections in my past. And you might hear yourself in this story, and stories are really important. And what I see in content creation is the content creators not always telling their story. And archetypally, this in Carl Jung speaks to this, and retelling your story allows people to remember who they are. And it's not so much in the knowledge or the wisdom that's there, it's in the vocalization of the reality of someone. And when you hear yourself in somebody else's language or speech or syntax, then there can be this sensation that goes through your body of, oh, I do that. Oh, that's me. Oh my goodness, I'm not alone. Oh, I'm validated in this. Because for me, how it started was I realized that the career that I had chosen, that I had immersed myself in, wasn't aligned with who I'd become. I'd learnt too much about the world, and I couldn't go back. And if you're familiar with The Matrix, you might remember Cypher, how he unplugged and then he wanted to go back in. So once you know, you cannot unknow. In fact, the things that you know become even more obtuse. They become even more exposed, even more in your face. And the things that I'm talking about here is incongruencies in the integrity of what people in my industry would speak to. Politicians. What else was there? There was how I was earning my money and being able to be two-faced in this corporate environment, and how I had a kink for being two-faced, right? And also phrases like, oh, it's above my pay grade. So knowing that for me to bring a problem to the surface, it would involve me having to spend more time and energy to fix the problem because nobody else wanted to take ownership of the problem. So you just leave it. So it's above my pay grade. I'll wait until that thing breaks before I can come in and save it, and then I get the credit for saving, right? So in all of this, I basically had enough money and distractions to avoid really taking action on what I was here to do, who I was here to be. And I could quite easily see the corruption in the world, the corruption in politics, the corruption down to a family and an individual level, like down to me, right? Where in order for me to change, it would challenge everybody else in my circles that I'm no longer the John that you knew me to be. And I'd be watching the news, and I'd be looking at whatever the articles that Google would put into my face, and reading newspaper articles from the Daily Telegraph. And if you're an overseas person, the Daily Telegraph is kind of not really a high quality newspaper, right? And with the advent of the internet and more publishers and them seeking more people to contribute to their content, the fact-checking and the clickbait had increased. So the quality of journalism has rapidly declined. So in all of this, it was a distraction. And then I'd binge on TV shows, I'd binge on movies. Like, I'd watch my favourite movies and shows over and over again. Like, I'm pretty sure I've watched the entire season of Family Guy at least 4 or 5 times. Rick and Morty. What else was there? There was Vampire Diaries. I just put my favourite movies on the background while I'd play computer games. I'd sink thousands of hours into computer games like World of Warcraft. All kinds of games. I actually made a post on my Facebook wall about all the majority of games that I played, and more games keep popping into my mind. I'm not going to update that list unless I feel like it. What showed up for me was a relationship crisis where my partner at the time, she went back to New York, and I was devastated, but because of how armoured I was as a man, I couldn't feel that I didn't allow myself to feel the disappointment, and I didn't say, don't go, I don't want you to go. And I'd lied to her in the beginning of the relationship, saying that I would go to New York with her if she couldn't make her life work in Australia. And I had no intention of doing that. And what I found throughout my early relationships is I would lie a lot to get what I wanted. And knowing what I know now, that's a very immature way to be. And it's boyish. And if you look at some of the archetypes of that, there's a miser in there. There's a bit of the fool in there. There's a bit of just unattractive traits, right, in a man. But she didn't know any different, and she took my word. And I found out this in a lot of my relationships with women, was that they trusted my word, and there's also a part of them that didn't. So basically, in this I had a relationship crisis, and then that relationship ended, and then I started a new relationship where I had a health crisis and a relationship crisis and a financial crisis. And what these crises do on the timeline of a life for someone who's committed to themselves and committed to inner work is it confronts you with a mirror of all of the lies that you've been telling yourself and other people in your life. So like for me, this relationship crisis, like I really love this woman, and she was a hottie, and for me, I loved lying to get what I wanted, and I'd lied to get this hottie. And I could see a relationship with her, I could see longevity with her, but then for me, I didn't know how to reflect on my past relationships. And the reflection and what is really mindfulness, the real mindfulness is reflecting on the past and being with the sensations and seeing where the patterns are reoccurring in your life. That's actual mindfulness. I wasn't doing that. So I just keep on going, and then she was a psychologist, and she had all these things that she was throwing at me, like attachment theory and this and that and masculine and feminine and all these concepts which I had a basic understanding of. I'd read some David Data and thought I knew it all, and I couldn't keep up. Like, she could run circles around me inner work wise, and I just couldn't keep up. Very intellectually smart, and in that relationship I had a health crisis where my bone density was incredibly low. And what I didn't realise that all those years, doctors could never find out why. It made no sense at my age what my bone density was. That my vitamin D was low. I wasn't doing any impact exercises, and this is the thing, and I'm not a health specialist, so if you need some health advice, go talk to whoever it is you want to talk to. But for me, in my journey, I wasn't doing any impact exercises. So if you have weak bones, impact exercises are really good. With shock, like stepping, jumping off steps at the correct heights without breaking your ankles, of course. And if you break your ankle, you'd know about it. So in this, my health crisis was, well, what am I eating? Like, what's my diet? I had a wheat sensitivity. I had a dairy allergy. So all these things were coalescing into this health crisis, which wasn't allowing me to absorb nutrients from food, which is the assumption that we got to after seeing therapist and specialist after specialist, was that there's something about my body's not absorbing. We looked at parasites as well. Before anybody jumps in the comments, is it parasites? Yeah, we look at parasites. But anyway, all of this stuff and the reasons is kind of irrelevant. What's important here is that there was a crisis and I needed to have a look at myself. Where's my integrity? How am I looking after myself? Where's my direction in life? And the job that I was in at the time, I wasn't loving it. I wasn't in integrity with it. And for me to give up the job would create a financial crisis of income. So I was, what do I do? So if I'm going to leave this job, what do I do? Which brought me right back into my teenage years of, well, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I left school. I didn't go to university. All of my training has ever been on the job, and I'm like a duck to water when it comes to challenges and learning. You put me in an environment, I will learn how to do it. And that served me incredibly well throughout my entire life, and it will continue to. So in this financial crisis, like, I'd paid off most of my unit, and I could see myself, I could last about 3 years without working. So I ended up quitting my job and taking care of this woman. But being in close contact with this woman who was also traumatized and hadn't finished all of her healing work, and we were aiming to heal together, but I didn't actually know what that looked like. So it basically became a war zone in this relationship. But this relationship crisis showed me so many things. Like, I met my mentor, and all these silver linings that can come out of a relationship crisis can create an environment where someone will ignore the responsibility that they have to look at their life. And this is what I deal with a lot of clients that I pre-qualify. If someone is not willing to have a look at where they have not accepted responsibility of their life, and they keep jumping to silver linings. So if you're someone who keeps jumping to silver linings and not doing the mindfulness and reflecting exercises, or having someone in your life, like myself, point out your blind spots. And like, what about this? What about this? Did you not know this? What's your relationship with your instinct? Do you have an instinct injury? Are you armored emotionally like I was as a man? So being able to help a woman de-armor and show her what she's avoiding looking at, what she's denying, is what I love to do. And for myself, I like working with men, but what I really find is that women are the ones who are the gatekeepers for the future. They really are. So if you're someone who has enough resources to stay distracted, but then is also living a bit of a half-life, like you're still binging on things to avoid reality, you've had health crisis, relationship crisis, or you're in a financial crisis now, like you're looping in all these three things. You get one fixed and another one starts falling apart. Get that one fixed and this one starts falling apart. There's something underneath all of this where you need to admit that you're living a lie. And once you admit that you're living a lie, you know that there's a level of helplessness that you're going to need some help with. And I know someone that can help you with that. I've got to answer the door. My wife is home, and I'm going to help my son get out of the car. Bye.